In this video, I'd like to explore how Umar Nurmagomedov uses underhooks and deals with his opponent's underhooks in order to control them on the ground. So let's take a look at this first sequence. What really stood out to me is that you can see that Bautista has two pieces of inside position from the bottom. Bautista has his elbow wedged in between himself and Umar, as well as he has a forearm across Umar's neck. So this is, in Jiu-Jitsu, a prime staging position in order to launch your escapes from side control bottom. What you will usually see people do is use these two pieces of inside position in order to re-guard by bringing the elbow and knee together. However, it looked like Bautista really had no urgency or desire to perform a re-guard, which would have left him still on bottom. So that indicated to me that Bautista was mainly looking to stand up from bottom, which is something that we saw him do throughout this fight. So in this clip, you see that Umar uses his hand, which he would ideally like to use for an underhook, to punch, and this gives Bautista space to pummel in his own underhook and start the escape. So Umar tries to step over into mount in order to not lose top position. And in the scramble, Bautista switches sides and tries to come up on a left side underhook, in which Umar is able to react and catch him in a cradle. So you see that Bautista is unable to progress back to his feet, and they're kind of locked in this static situation. Umar would ideally like to flatten Bautista back to the ground, and he does this by extracting his left arm and pummeling it as an underhook in order to use it to drive Bautista's far shoulder back to the mat. In this sequence, I want you to pay attention to how Umar uses his underhook arm. As Bautista pummels his underhook and threatens to stand up, Umar reacts and migrates his underhook down the body and runs to Bautista's back in anticipation of the stand-up. Bautista concedes back the guard and Umar secures the body lock and uses it to pass. Once passed, Umar migrates his tight waist upwards to an underhook, and when Bautista pummels his underhook, Umar degrades it by clamping down on it. Bautista realizes his underhook is useless and extracts his arm, which allows Umar the opportunity to regain his own underhook. Finally, as Bautista bridges onto his knees, Umar flows seamlessly back to the tight waist and takes his back. In that whole sequence, Umar's underhook arm moved up and down a total of 5 times. So that's a crazy amount of awareness and instinct built into his grappling ability, which is really cool to see. So this interplay between the underhook and the tight waist is something that Umar is really good at, and we're going to look at a couple of examples from his fight versus Almakhan, in which he does exactly this. So in this clip, you can see that Umar starts with the underhook, and as Almakhan goes to hip escape, Umar transitions his underhook into a tight waist and is able to get it super deep. And he uses this tight waist to keep connected to Almakhan, nullifying his hip escape attempts, and also keeping him in place in order to beat him up. And in this clip, you can see the consequences of not shutting down your opponent's underhook. Here Umar has a near side underhook, and Almakhan has the far side underhook. Umar doesn't really do anything to counter the far side underhook, and he makes the mistake of trying to step over into mount without having the far side underhook. This allows Almakhan the opportunity to bridge using the underhook and return back to his feet. So, if you found this video interesting, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay guys, thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, I just want to say, fuck the UFC. I have to make this video look like it's fucking deep fried in order to pass the copyright checks for something that is clearly fair use and transformative, but I still get flagged anyway. So fuck the UFC.